So what they Skippy and so what they omnes. Welcome again to another episode of Latin in Layman's. I wonder if I'm not going to take a seat. I'm going to be standing up because we're going to talk about one of my favorite disciplines. My favorite disciplines being, well, other than etymology, other than words, other than language, I love science. Well, where is the term, the discipline science? Where do we get this etymological derivation? Where are we going to hearken it from? We're going to hearken it from scio in the Latin. Scio, sciere, means to know, because science is the discipline of knowing or learning to know more and more, because science is humble in its endeavors, right? As I talked about before, science seeks to prove itself wrong, and where we get a first hypothesis. We have a hypo, which is low and or below. Thesis comes from thetic, which means to put and or to place. This is also where we get things like synthetic, something that is put together, syn meaning together and or with. So if you have a hypothesis, a below placement, aka kind of like, it's kind of a thought, you then test and test and test and retest until it becomes theory. Now, I don't actually have the etymological derivation of theory, but looking at theory, theo, that is God in the Greek. Does theory have something pertaining to godliness and or the creme de la creme, aka the upper and or top echelon? I don't know. What do you think? This is also, though, where you get something like, well, your conscience. Con meaning together and or with. Science means to know, you are knowing with. But when you are subconscious, that's a term that we deal with when, well, the subconscious, the id, the ego, the superego, the dream world, dream interpretation, psychoanalysis. I could go off. I hope you learned something new because look, we went from science to hypothesis. Well, what is that? Again, a below placement that test and test and test and test and test and test, and if it holds true, theory, godly. Consciousness, subconsciousness. Would love to hear any more if you guys have any. That being said, hope you learned something new. That was us together, right?